go to settings in the MCU, the TVA, and the Void, but you were accurate in saying, like, this is more about the Fox X-Men, or the Fox universe, rather, not just X-Men. And we really don't do anything with the fact that Hugh Jackman is in the MCU at this point, because we just put him with Deadpool, which we've already seen that happen. Granted, it was, 16 years ago, 15 years ago, or whatever. So it's just kind of interesting that that's the case. And yeah, it's like barely an MCU movie, almost.
Yeah, they hit on it, or they hit on the MCU a couple of times here and there. Obviously, the conversation with Jon Favreau at the beginning, which is funny because Jon Favreau is in both Fox and the Marvel universes as different characters. So I liked that conversation. And when that happened, I'm like, oh man, we're full on welcome to the MCU Deadpool, which means welcome to the MCU Wolverine. Other than that brief moment where Wolverine is fighting Hulk, which is awesome, by the way. I would love to see something there down the line. That's about it. The rest is Fox. The rest is these Fox characters being stuck out of time, all coming together, and just the location in the Void being the home for all of these cameos to happen. But they're not just... they're cameos, right? But these guys are integral characters in this movie. I mean, the little team that they create throughout the second act of the film, they're on screen for 25 minutes. Channing Tatum is probably on screen for at least 20 minutes with his terrible accent. So that was just a nice treat for fans, or even not fans, because I don't like the Elektra movie. I think it's terrible. But I like her as Elektra, especially in that Daredevil movie, and it's just nice to see her back in that, and they hit on all the little issues that people have with those movies in that universe, and I thought they treated all those characters the way they should have, which was elevate them, make them feel like their time on screen is earned, but also give us those moments that we were looking for.
I've read a lot of reactions, very positive, very negative.
Oh, yeah.
I've listened to a podcast that was very positive and also very cynical about what type of movie this is. And I actually understand all sides to this.
Sure.
I really do. But I think the people that are cynical about it, I don't think they are acknowledging enough that this does feel like a natural Deadpool sequel on its own. Like, if the MCU wasn't involved, if the Fox acquisition never happened, I think Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman could have come up with Deadpool 3 and had it be a road trip movie without the TVA. Like, just a lot of what they did, it still, I think, could have been Deadpool 3 under Fox.
Yes.
I really think that. And I think Ryan Reynolds probably could have gotten away with bringing in Elektra still, or bringing in Channing Tatum. Like, it just isn't as obvious as a MCU movie as I thought it would be going in. I mean, I thought there would be more conversation. Yeah, there were jokes about keeping Hugh Jackman in here until he's like 90 years old, but I thought we were going to confront the mutant saga more so. Yeah. Based on how Kevin Feige was talking going in, and it's just really not that. It's a Deadpool 3. It really, really is. I'm glad I kind of put those expectations aside, and I'm really not thinking about recasting Wolverine anymore because they left it so open-ended. It's just like, I don't think we're doing this yet. I don't think we're supposed to have this. We can have the conversation, but I don't think we're quite there yet.
Well, you mentioned it on the last podcast. They were wanting this to feel very self-contained. And it's amazing how many characters and cameos and Easter eggs there are in this movie, yet the film feels like it's a self-contained picture that maybe sets the stage for the future, but doesn't rub it in our faces like, oh, here's where we're going next, right? It is just that. It's a road trip between these two characters that we've always wanted to see on screen. But at the same time, it's delivering on almost the same types of jokes and ideas and thoughts and themes that we got in the first two Deadpool movies, and it's a natural continuation because what Deadpool's fighting for in this movie, he's fighting for his family that he fought to get back. using Cable's machine, and it's so weird to me that the plot point of Cable's time machine, which is also a universe jump machine apparently, it's so crazy that just worked out. I mean, it worked out. It sent Deadpool to those places in the first place to change the past, and thus the TVA was after him. And I'm like, I know they didn't plan that because they weren't together, but it's just crazy how they were able to just seamlessly blend that. And so I'm really impressed with that, and I think that's the right call, that's the right move, and it's just a natural progression for his character. And then what they do with Wolverine, it feels kind of natural as well. If we weren't doing a multiverse story, we wouldn't have gotten this movie. I mean, that's just the bottom line, right? Because the Logan, and we know this now, in Deadpool's universe, that was the Logan in Deadpool's universe, is dead. He's dead. And so, other than defiling the grave and actually pulling out Logan and reviving him, which is, I think, what would have had to have happened if it wasn't a multiverse story, that's the only way to go about it, is a multiverse story. And so, you know, I get people's criticisms. I really do. And I feel that and share that to a degree. But at the same time, it had to be multiverse because you had to get Logan from another multiverse if you didn't want to spit all over what we got from Logan. And so the culmination of those things makes this movie and allows us in 2024, okay, flashback 12 years, flashback, go further than that, go to 2010. Would you ever have imagined that not only we would have a Deadpool movie, but we would have a Deadpool and Wolverine movie with that Hugh Jackman version of Wolverine in all of its comic book glory? And he's not wearing black spandex, he's wearing the yellow suit. That never occurred to me, okay?
Right.
The fact that we're getting that kind of spawning from the multiverse, it was almost essential to us as fans to feel this type of satisfaction. And for Marvel to rake in all the money, because they made $40 million on Thursday, which is insane. Yeah. But that tells you this is how long fans have been waiting for this. And the multiverse being essential for that type of thing, I'm okay with that. But now we've set the stage for, okay, we can move forward and maybe implement the multiverse a little bit less and maybe kind of focus on the X-Men. And I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know what way they're going to spin it. We know Deadpool's going to be a part of it. And hopefully Jackman will be that, like we said in the podcast before, Feige's got him in his back pocket. Maybe we can utilize that for the future. And so I'm excited because of that, because maybe this now means less multiverse nonsense and we can full-on focus on the X-Men and the mutants.
And I think people forget, too, that we were in a place where, honestly, we can get lost in a lot of the concepts, you know, the TVA, string theory, time travel, and there's all these things that, you know, fans can find themselves in a place where it's like, well, I don't know if all of this makes sense. But we were also saying that when we saw the Fox Fantastic Four movies, the Fox X-Men movies, because we're watching those, and even the Fox X-Men that were concurrent to the MCU. It's like, it doesn't make sense that these franchises aren't acknowledging each other. Like, why did we see so many X-Men movies? You know those old clips you see on Twitter where, like, there's that deleted scene in Tim Story's Fantastic Four where Reed morphs his face to look like Hugh Jackman?
Yes, I remember that.
So it's like, that was a deleted scene. And then there's like a funny blooper from X-Men 1 where a guy in a Spider-Man costume ran out in the Statue of Liberty fight, and it's just like a prank on the cat. But it's like, that's a joke because that used to be a world where none of this could happen. But it like didn't make sense. The fact that rights were tied up in multiple studios, it doesn't make sense, right? Like, why can't these characters... And now we're just in a place where we can do all this, and people are finding a way to complain. It's like, no. Like it'll get to a point, if we don't do things like this, these types of exercises, we're just going to be in these, like, locked-in universes where it's like, these almost aren't comic book movies either. Because when you zoom out... and you're like thinking, what's this quixotic ideal of what a comic book movie universe could be? Well, you actually, you know, bring Iron Man together with the Hulk, and then you have this fight with Thor in this movie, and it's just like, I just think sometimes we forget that what Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios has done is probably the most quixotic way of transcribing superheroes to the movie screen. That doesn't mean everything that happens is perfect, but when we have the opportunity that we have with No Way Home and this, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of the Madness, less successfully, like, this is kind of what we should be doing. Like, we grew into this.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I'm just not as cynical about this project. And as long as we're being objective and we can still point out, like, this story point doesn't work, this and that, we're all good. We're not shills, but this is just exactly what we asked for. And I understand it's more for us because, I mean, I remember when the Electro movie came out. I remember watching Blade Trinity on DVD with Wesley Snipes and Ryan Reynolds, and I had the context of the behind-the-scenes stories where they didn't get along, and it's like, yes, it is for me, and not everybody's going to get that. When I take my mom and sister to see this movie, they're not going to get any of it.
No. No.
But at the same time, like, I don't know. Then the conversation, you and I, if they didn't have those jokes and didn't have those references and things, we'd always be like wanting more out of our movies the way that we did in the early 2000s. Like, it doesn't make sense to not do this thing. And so I just feel like that's the most objective way to look at it. I mean, I'm sorry I'm rambling, but that's just kind of what informs my take on all this.
No, you're absolutely right. It felt like a natural progression from the get-go. It's something that fans were asking for throughout the early 2000s. Like, why aren't these movies connecting? Why are we not acknowledging each other? Well, this is a comic book movie. This doesn't feel like a comic book. It's also separate, and these characters are this and that. And yeah, there are going to be jokes that when my wife watches this movie, she is not going to even remotely understand. She will probably look at me and say, why is Channing Tatum in this? And who is that?
Exactly.
Who is this character that he's playing? And then I'll have to explain, do you remember Gambit from X-Men Origins Wolverine? And I'll have to go into grave detail about that one gag, that ongoing gag in this movie, and there will be numerous examples of that. And so that's something that, people are going to struggle with if they're not ready for that, or they just don't have the knowledge necessary. And I get it, man. I really do. Not being in on a joke is sometimes like the worst thing ever. I go back and I watch old Fresh Prince episodes, and he's constantly making pop culture references. Okay? I love the show. One of my favorites of all time. I will laugh at half the jokes, and the other half, I'm like, who is that? Who's he talking about? It was funny in the 90s, but I don't know who that is, who he's referencing. And so not being in on a joke stinks. But this is a movie for the fans. 1,000%. Wouldn't you have loved to have been in Hall H when they showed this movie with that packed audience and those three in attendance? I'm also curious, do you think that Snipes and all them were like in the back watching and listening, or were they just there? I doubt they watched the movie with them, because I want to know the joy that I get thinking about Wesley Snipes, how he was feeling walking out on that stage, to the fans flipping out. And we'll talk about the context of this video here in a bit and why they tweeted it out and the fact that I hate it. But I love thinking about Wesley Snipes, what he's thinking, whether or not he actually made up with Ryan Reynolds, but Reynolds giving him the chance to be in this movie and for them to share that hug on stage, man. Like, that brings me joy. And so it's not just the movie itself, it's what this movie is doing for those actors and those characters, giving them a chance to play these characters one more time, and just like young Laura, young X-23, giving her a chance to share the stage with Hugh Jackman again. Like, this movie just did so much across the board, and it makes me so happy to think about.
So, we mentioned the Hulk fight. I went to the bathroom at what might be the most inconvenient time. So, I saw what must have been the last frame of Hulk. So, if there was a fight, I didn't see it. But I did hear, it seemed like it was a frame of Hulk and then a joke from Deadpool about them fighting. And so that's just all I have. So I laughed. I was walking back to my seat when that happened, and I just kind of laughed, and it clicked. Oh, they acknowledged Hulk. I didn't even know there was a fight, though.
No, you didn't miss anything. It was
Okay.
as brief as you could imagine. But it was also something I'm like, why would they plant that seed if there wasn't? Because I don't know if you saw, there's now a rumored Hulk versus Wolverine project in the works. And so if they're going to tease that, that was the best way to do it. I would love to, because that animated 30-minute thing that they did a couple years ago is one of my favorite things Marvel's ever done. So it was cool. It was cool, but it was a small part of that big Wolverine montage, if you will.
I loved seeing Cavill's cameo. Loved it. I kind of can't believe that there's a joke where Ryan Reynolds or Deadpool says, "We'll treat you better than the other guys down the street." But I think what I'm most surprised by is I'm the kind of person that hates fan castings.
Sure.
I never want to hear anybody say that Idris Elba should be James Bond again. Stop it. Stop it. I've had enough. I hated it super early on in that rumors run. I'm even more pissed. Just stop. Just stop it. But Cavill being Wolverine, not as much, but that's kind of been an annoying thing that I've just
Sure.
I get why people think that that'd be a good idea. I've just never been in that campaign where I'm like, I've never even been like a Daniel Radcliffe should be Wolverine, but Tom Hardy as Wolverine's another one. Like, I get all of these fan castings. I've just never been in any of their camps. I kind of can't believe that he was just Wolverine for like 3 seconds. I was like, holy shit, he could do that if he wanted to.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. And it might be like Hugh Jackman-esque or like a, sort of like an impersonation, but at the same time, in 3 seconds, I was like, that's actually like even more successful than Krasinski as Reed Richards.
Did you see how big that man was? I mean,
Yeah.
we know he's big because we saw him shirtless in Superman. But dude, the shot of his arm going around the back, I knew immediately it wasn't Hugh Jackman. And that's not to say Hugh Jackman isn't just the most ripped man on the planet, because he looks phenomenal. But Cavill has the rippedness, but he has the bulkiness. And when I saw him turn around, my brain said, "That's Wolverine." Like that's Wolverine. And it's the perfect thing to do, right? Because just coming off of Superman, just coming off of The Witcher, he's been in the trades consistently for a year now. Get this man in there, make a joke about DC, and plant the seed for something cool down the line. And I don't think we'll ever get it, to be honest with you. But, dude, that was so freaking cool. Like, and maybe if they hear enough clamoring now, that could be an option. And Cavill's willing to do it because he did it. And so, dude, I loved it. And it could have just been a Krasinski acknowledgement, but I wouldn't mind if it was more than that, to be honest with you.
I actually don't interpret it as... I literally think it's exactly what went down with Krasinski. The fact that they just called him up and said, "Hey, do you want to come play with us for a few minutes? Come down here. We'll do this thing for the fans," and blah, 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 blah. I personally think John Krasinski, as an actor, never had any intention of playing a Marvel superhero. I think the only reason he did it is because it was never supposed to be anything more than what it was. So I actually think Cavill, I think that it's exactly the same thing. What's different, though, is that like I literally saw that character in 3 seconds. More than I did. And so my takeaway from it isn't like I'm doubling down, Cavill should be the next Wolverine. What I think it does do, though, is help me comprehend that another actor will play this character eventually. That's what I felt in the moment. I was like, yeah, they could. I think it would be okay if they announced another Wolverine in the next couple of years.
That's fair.
And as an audience, we'd figure it out. I think we can. That doesn't mean that any of the reverence and the respect, that doesn't mean any of that goes away. I just think it's an easier pill to swallow now that we've literally seen another character play him now. Yep. It sucks that Vanessa, she's such a great part of the first Deadpool movie.
Yeah.
I hate how she's just kind of been sidelined as sort of like a launch pad for the plot of the last two movies. Like, so that's a little disappointing. I feel like Marvel Studios, if anybody, was going to put her... I can't remember what character she plays, what hero she plays. It's like a cat name or something. But I feel like...
Meow, meow.
I feel like that should have been part of it. I kind of don't get why Nice Pool... Why does he look fake? Didn't he look like a deep fake of Ryan Reynolds? It was weird. It was like too digital. I legitimately think they did de-aging on Ryan Reynolds, and I didn't understand that, to be honest. He looks fake to me. I couldn't figure that out exactly. And also, I'm not even sure I understand what happened in the third act. I'm not gonna lie. I like with the machine and Cassandra Nova, and then the fact that they bridged the two. I honestly don't know exactly what I watched. It's okay. But I'm going to need to rewatch the movie again because I guess I got lost somewhere with the line of dialogue. But anyway, I'm not exactly sure what I saw, but it's all good.
And the first watch, if you're enjoying something that much, that's always you're trying to catch every joke. You're trying to soak in every cool moment. And so, yeah, I have that experience pretty often with like superhero movies because I'm just having the time of my life. And then it's like, oh, what are they doing at the end of No Way Home? What's going on here? So yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. A little confusing, but seeing them hold hands and then Hugh Jackman's shirt getting ripped off, and I want to take my wife, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't want that to be your expectation. So maybe not.
Johnny Torch, seeing Chris Evans play that role, did you know it was coming? The only thing I thought you did know it was coming.
Well, I knew the moment. So they tried to pull this bait and switch of, he's not actually Captain America, he's Human Torch. But the second I saw him, I'm like, that's Human Torch. Because I just saw the 20th Century logo, I saw all this, I'm like, that's Human Torch. He didn't even have to say a word for me to know that was Human Torch.
Okay. I wouldn't go that far. When he spoke, I instantly knew that it was Chris Evans. But what I thought was weird is that he's wearing like red and white cloth on his arms. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, why would you do that, but also hide his face? Like, it didn't add up to me. So I knew something was up. Because it's like, Captain America wouldn't wear that.
Yeah.
So I knew that it was a fake out. And then, I pretty much arrived at the reveal about the time the reveal happened. So I wasn't like entirely surprised by Flame On, but either way, that's the kind of stuff that like, I don't remember those movies, but I know this is such a stupid thing, but if we're going to dive this deep into superhero fandom, we might as well. I don't remember him coming off that way. Because it was almost like we saw Boston Chris Evans.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't remember Johnny being like that in the Tim Story Fantastic Fours. It doesn't matter, but part of me was like, is he really playing this character the same way?
Yeah, it was a little different. I guess you could argue if you wanted to say, well, he's grizzled over time. He's been in the void for a while. He's
the R rating. The R rating opens
the
him up.
R rating for sure. And so I think that's the argument they would make. But at the same time, you're right. Even the accent was like just like slightly different. And I'm like, I don't know, because I just rewatched these movies a couple months ago. It didn't seem like the same character to me. But then you could also say, oh, well, that was just another version of him. So there's so many excuses for that.
What was the Daredevil joke? I think I missed it. So did he say sorry about Daredevil like it was a divorced Ben Affleck joke? Is that what it was?
And Jennifer Connelly said something along the lines of we don't need him anyway, or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Jennifer, you said Jennifer Connelly.
Connelly. Yeah, no, sorry, Jennifer Garner.
Before the internet comments.
Different Jennifer. But Jennifer Garner, she essentially was like, I don't need him. So I was
Jennifer
like, okay.
Connelly also in the MCU though. She plays
Yeah, you're right.
what's her face for Spider-Man.
You're right.
What was the other thing I was going to ask you about the cameos? I've seen another cynical take, like what's up with celebrating Elektra and Jennifer Garner? I think it kind of goes back to this idea that, like, I think part of what was so special, even though there's been a lot of rewriting of history in terms of the Amazing Spider-Man movies, I think for a particular sect of the audience, we were like happy to see Garfield in a good Spider-Man movie.
Yes.
So I think that's what it is. Like I think it's just that we like to see these characters that we remember. We want to remember them more fondly, and so it's actually cool. But again, it goes back to that fandom thing where it's like, yeah, Fox made Elektra, Fox made Daredevil, but it's like, why doesn't Jennifer Garner show up in an X-Men movie at any point? Why isn't Jennifer Garner in X-Men Origins Wolverine? Like, it just goes back to that. So it's like, yeah, that's just the kind of stuff that we've been waiting for. So it's like, yeah, does it come off ridiculous because nobody cares about that Elektra movie? It's universally panned and just like not remembered. But it's like that's what goes back to it. It's like we have fond memories of this stuff. So we want to see this kind of stuff acknowledged and make it make sense, that kind of thing. So,
Well, and now the last memory we're going to have of her is, unless she comes back for some reason, is her in this movie. And so the last memory we have now, whereas it was Elektra, and even for Blade, the third Blade movie stinks. That movie stinks. We remember the first two, but the third one stinks. And now it's like, oh, the last time we saw this character, he's in a fun movie. He's in a good movie. And so that's cool that we have that for her, for him, and I guess to a degree for Channing Tatum. But I did love how they just made fun of his accent the whole time. Because apparently that was one of the issues behind the scenes for that movie that they never made. And so that was hilarious. But I will be honest, man. My brother, after the movie, he was like, those Gambit scenes were really cool. Like, genuinely, his power set, how he used them, how he used the cards, and the moment where he put all the cards and all the bad guys and they all exploded. Dude, that's some of the coolest stuff in the whole movie. And so Gambit, Channing Tatum as Gambit got a lot of stuff to do that was awesome, and that was really cool to see.
That's another thing, too, is that I loved that it referenced that non-existent movie, and it's a payoff for fans who were kind of waiting for that. But at the same time, it's not like I'm wishing. I agree with your brother, but I'm not wishing for a Channing Tatum Gambit movie. It's like if that character was gonna exist, it should be in that movie and only that movie. Because the joke about his accent and things like that. It's like that Gambit movie. That would have been like a Madam Web thing. Like I feel like there was a portion of the fandom that already knew that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Like they wanted a cool Gambit movie for sure, but at the same time, some of us were like, it's what Sony does with their Spider-Man movies. It's like it's just these spin-off movies that just don't amount to anything. That's what that Gambit movie was all along to me. So it never bothered me that it died. But if you're gonna do it in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, Gambit seems like a character that is much more of a supporting character. And that's why the Sony stuff confuses me. It's like, why are you taking all these supporting characters and giving them their own film? It's so stupid. Madam Web is literally just a puzzle piece within the story of Spider-Man. And you're trying to give her her own movie? It's such a strange idea. It's like it was never going to work to start with.